So who am I? What do I do? I help successful people actually enjoy the success that they've struggled so hard to gain, to achieve. We've all worked hard, we're all high achievers, and we've all struggled to enjoy that success, or at least many of us have. I help high achievers find their inner purpose. So that's a bit vague. What does that mean? What is inner purpose? Well, I can't tell you what it is for you, but I know it's spoken about a lot in all of and there's so much social media about inner purpose, finding our purpose. What does this mean? And I can't tell you what it means, but I can tell you what it means for me. For me, my inner purpose was to help people avoid the mistakes that I made in my life and in my career. For me, my inner purpose was to help people not be destroyed, not have their careers destroyed or their lives destroyed by stress, by anxiety, and by the things that go on in their lives. So I would love this webinar to be interactive, and I would love people to comment, either take yourself off mute and ask a question or comment, or just put a comment in the comments box. And in that light, I'd like you all to type into the comments box now, have you booked your annual holiday yet? Are you going to the sun? Are you holidaying in Ireland? Are you I know we have one guy on from the States. Are you holidaying in the States? So let me know what's your holiday plan? What do you hope to do for holidays? And as we go through this webinar, I'd love you to come off mute, to comment, to ask questions. So first of all, let me tell you about Claudia. Claudia is a recent client of mine. She struggled. She was very successful. She ran 3 businesses, but struggled in all of them to make a contribution. She's struggled with procrastination, and the root of that procrastination was perfectionism. She didn't want to produce anything unless it was absolutely perfect. Through working with me, she managed to realize that things don't have to be perfect. We all work with people, we all buy from people, we all do business with people, and people aren't perfect. So people accept a lack of perfection, and by ditching her perfectionism, she managed to eliminate a lot of stress from her life, and took her business and her personal life from being fairly successful to being very successful. And that's what it's all about. If we have success in business but aren't enjoying that success, then why do we do it? So who is this webinar for? Well, primarily, I like to deal with successful people. Are you successful? Are you a high achiever? And if you've answered yes to those, perhaps you're stressed and overworked. And that stress or overwork leaves you feeling as if you're missing something in life, as if something is missing from your life. That stress and overwork is leaving you irritable. Perhaps your family relationships are starting to break down. Perhaps your friendships aren't what they could be. And perhaps you've forgotten why it is you do what you do. Why do you want a successful career? Why do you want the foreign holidays? Why do you want to surround yourself by all of the good things in life? If you spend too much time in the process of achieving them and too little time in actually enjoying it, then why do you want to achieve what you're achieving? And my goal for this webinar is to help you who are feeling stressed to ditch that stress. That stress that's stopping you from enjoying the career that you have worked so hard to create. Perhaps like me, you spent 30 years building a career, and that career is no longer providing what you would like it to provide. That career no longer motivates you. You've become demotivated, and the career is suffering, the relationships with your colleagues are suffering, but more importantly, your family life is suffering. And so why me? What qualifies me to discuss about this? Well, I was that person. I was buried in the weeds of my career. I was working 60, 70 hours a week. I was working extremely hard to achieve, to surround myself by all of the good things in life. And I did it fairly well. But to the extent that I lost sight of the things around me. I lost sight of the wonderful family life I had. I lost sight of all of the people around me who cared for me and who needed me in their lives. I was failing to give those people the thing they needed most, which was my time with me. So it was only when a family tragedy happened that I realized this. And it was only when this family tragedy happened that I knew that things needed to change. So I changed. I ditched the stress, and I now spend my life looking primarily, the center of my life is my son Max, who you'll see in the picture there. He is why I do what I do. He is why I changed my life from being buried in the weeds of my career to being focused on the things that I like to focus on. The day at the beach with my son is my idea of a perfect day. So if you have been struggling with feelings of stress, self-doubt, and anxiety, it's probably because one or all of the following apply. You take setbacks personally. Something goes wrong in your career. You think it's about you. You think you're not good enough. You think the imposter syndrome sets in, and you feel that your career will never bounce back, that your career is over. This leads to high levels of stress and anxiety, and I've witnessed this on a number of occasions throughout the last 30 years. Or perhaps you just lost touch with why you do what you do. So why did you want that successful career in sales? Why did you want to be the top executive in your business? For me, I wanted it so I could have the rich, productive family life that I now have. At that time, I lost sight of this. It became a means. That means became the end. I wanted to achieve because success was how I defined success. The job title, I was finance director. That's top of my profession as I defined it. But I'd lost touch with what was really important. And what was really important wasn't being top of that profession. What was really important was the wonderful things that were within my life, but I failed to recognize. So we get buried in the weeds of our careers. We work the 60, 70, 80-hour weeks, and we're producing a good income, we're providing well for our families. But we become stressed and anxious. We are conscious that we could lose it at any time. That if our job is gone, then what defines us is gone. And we develop habits and behaviors that aren't producing what we would like in our lives. We work harder, we work longer hours, we become irritable with our families, we become more and more stressed and more anxious. It's a vicious circle. So our relationships are strained, our friendships are non-existent or very much on the back foot, and it's hard to recover. But there is a better way. And these things may sound simple, but in fact, they are so hard to achieve. So here are my 3 suggestions for how we may build resilience and how we may enjoy the lives we have worked hard to create. Firstly, become immune to setbacks. Sounds simple, doesn't it? But we beat ourselves up anytime something goes wrong in our lives. When I started this webinar, I forgot to unmute myself, which was a setback, but I have to continue anyway. And that's the second bit. Stay on course. Know what it is that we want to achieve and stay on that course despite the setbacks, despite the opinions of others, and despite our own self-limiting beliefs that tell us we can't achieve this or we won't achieve it. And the final thing is unstoppable confidence, knowing that you deserve everything that's good in your life, that everything that's good in your, knowing that we are good enough, knowing that everything is available to us, and knowing that, like everybody else, in common with everybody else, there will be setbacks, but knowing that despite all of that, you will gain what you want to gain, what you want to achieve, and you will be more than enough to have everything you want. So, becoming immune to setbacks, otherwise known as developing a growth mindset. So, when something goes wrong in our careers or in our lives, what do? We grow from it. We don't take it personally, and we don't beat ourselves up. So embrace the challenges, persist in the face of the setbacks, and see the extra effort as part of the journey. Learn from criticism. So don't take the opinions of others as being negative or positive. They are learning. There are opportunities for learning. Learning to learn from the criticism of others is one of the most powerful things to allow us bounce back from setbacks. Witness the people around you. They have all had tough times. They've all had setbacks. And take inspiration from their resilience, the resilience you witness around you all day, every day. And my favorite topic, and I've done webinars on this topic by itself, is gratitude. By being grateful for the things that we achieve, for being grateful for the small things. The setbacks don't seem so important anymore. So as I showed you earlier, my day on the beach with my 5-year-old son, Max, I'm so grateful for every minute that I get to do that. Gratitude is a superpower. If a growth mindset is a power, then gratitude is the superpower that's behind all of that. Without gratitude, I believe there can be no growth. So let me tell you about my client, Joe. Joe was a financial accountant who was working with me in an international company for some time. Joe's position was relocated to a different country, and he wasn't in a position to go with it. This was a setback. He took it very hard. He took it as a personal slight on his ability and who he was as a person. But that's not what it was. And through working with me, Joe began to see that his career wasn't over. It was an opportunity to grow his career. And since then, he has moved positions a number of times. I won't give you the exact number, but he has moved positions a number of times, each move being a step forward in his career. So if anything, he was in a rut, his career was stuck, but when that's what he saw as a setback happening, he took it very hard, and he thought his career was over. through learning to see our setbacks as opportunities. For learning, we can see them as opportunities to move our careers much further along. So Joe, I'm glad to say, is very happy in his career now and his life. So the next piece of advice on developing resilience is stay on course. And this, for me, is about setting meaningful goals. So know what it is you want to achieve and keep that goal in sight. Keep that goal as your focus. Know that achieving this goal will be the means by which you bounce back from those setbacks. Tapping into your calling is important. So having a goal that is important to you, having a goal that you know you are on this earth to achieve. And of course, we mostly have numerous goals. You have a goal for a career and a goal for your life. So prioritizing those goals, making sure those goals are SMART goals, and I'm sure we've all come across this expression before. SMART means specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time focused. So again, having goals that we can measure our success, our achievement of those goals on a regular basis, and we can keep those goals in sight is so important. But for me, during my career, if those goals weren't consistent with our values, then we were in trouble. Some of us, and I count myself amongst this, lose sight of our values. We're so busy achieving goals set by us, by other people, or so busy achieving those financial or those performance goals that we forget what's really important, what drives us to achieve those goals. For me, the driver was a happy life, but in reality, forgetting about that goal made it very difficult for me to achieve those other goals and bounce back from setback. So let me tell you about Ben. Ben started off his career in administration, but this isn't what he wanted to do. He experienced setbacks. He found promotion very difficult to get, and he found it very difficult to live the stress-free life. He brought his stress home with him in the evenings. He was irritable with his family and friends. Ben was not happy in his career. He tried to move on to different careers. But what Ben really wanted to do was help others. And eventually, after working with me and going through a few other career iterations, he decided to study social work. In the last 6 months, he's qualified as a social worker and started out a career in social work. He's never been happier. He's delighted. His family have said how calm and relaxed he is and how every moment with him is now fun and enjoyable. Ben is somebody who has found their purpose, who has found the life that they want to live, and has found and is now moving towards that life. So unstoppable confidence, what's this? Well, we've all seen it, I think, in people, and we know when we're lacking it ourselves. We feel we beat ourselves up. We respond negatively. We become critical of others. We blame others for things that go wrong in our lives. Unstoppable confidence, to me, is about self-esteem. That's a very fancy term, but what it means is self-esteem. Loving ourselves, knowing that we are good enough, knowing there's nothing we need to do or become to be happy right now, knowing that we are enough and that everything we desire is available to us. Importantly in this is remembering that life is not all about us. People say things to us because of what's going on in their heads. I'm reminded of a comment that Simon Cowell made on an interview where his father used to tell him the best way to get on with people is to imagine a sign over their heads that says, "Pay attention to me." So if you can pay attention to somebody else, if you can drop the self-evaluation that's constantly going on, what will that person think of me? Can I say this? Will this person lose respect for me if I say something? Knowing that can make it very difficult for us to have that internal self-esteem, to know that we are good enough. We need to focus on the other. We need to understand and realize that focusing on the other, we drop the focus on ourselves. We don't beat ourselves up so badly, and we know that life is perfect. So if I were to say anything about what to take away from this webinar, it's the comment, the affirmation, it's not all about me. If I can drop the focus on myself, focus on the other, then I'm going to get much more in return. It's not all about me. So let me tell you about Vince. Vince was one of my first clients. It's a number of years now since I spoke to him. But he developed some limiting beliefs in his childhood. And chief amongst those was that he was not enough, that he needed to be better than everybody else, that he needed to achieve much more than everybody else. He was trying to prove himself primarily to his father. As a child, his father inadvertently gave Vince a message that he was not enough, and in order to be accepted as being the same as everybody else, he had to be better than everybody else. This made Vince very driven. He is very successful, but he is not very successful in his personal life. He never married. He has no children. He talks commonly about his legacy, what's all his success for. And really throughout his life, that building that success was about proving to his father that he was good enough. If we can accept that we are good enough, drop the desire to prove things to other people, to be good enough in their eyes, and know that we are good enough on our own, then I believe it's my contention that life will be much more powerful. So, recapping on my 3 secrets to becoming more resilient. Become more immune to criticism and to setbacks. And central in that, of course, is gratitude. Stay on course, know what you want to achieve, and keep those goals in mind constantly throughout your career. But I don't mean know your goal for your career, I mean know your goal for your life. Why do you want the career that you have chosen? Why have you been put on this planet? and develop that unstoppable confidence that comes with being able to ditch the opinions of others and know that regardless of the opinions of others, we are enough. To me, they are three secrets to becoming more resilient. And of course, they're not secrets because we all know them. Achieving them is another matter. So I hear you say what I'm saying. Yes, that's all very well, but I've been this way for my lifetime. I'm not going to change now. And there's a lot of truth in that. So true change comes through knowing who we are, by understanding how we feel, by understanding what it is we want to achieve. So true change comes from self-awareness. Without that self-awareness, change is not going to happen. But by being self-aware, by understanding what we can change and why we want to change it, that is the beginning of making that change permanent. I've seen so many people do so many programs of you can change your life now, or develop the habits of successful people. There are so many books, there are so many programs out there offering people quick changes. But unless you can develop that self-awareness, that self-understanding, then that change will disappear as soon as it is challenged. And that's the work I like to do with clients, is helping them make those changes for a lifetime, so that the changes aren't going to revert to normal within a couple of weeks of our work. So I'm just going to take a moment to check the chat to see if so I see a number of you there have said you have wonderful holidays in the pipeline, which is great. I'm glad to hear it. And it means that you are spending time focused on what's truly important to you. So before I close this webinar, just to let you know that I will be emailing everybody after this with a link to my tool on effective time management, which for me was an important skill to develop in order to free my time to do the things that are really important. This tool will be, I will send you the link to download that tool after this session. I'm also offering everybody a 30-minute transformation to explore how you can immediately take control of your career and your life. How you can develop that resilience, how you can bounce back from setbacks. So that conversation is so valuable, and I'm sure you can use it to develop that resilience and make those changes in your lives. There are things you can do today to allow you to be happy today. So I wonder, has anybody any comments, any questions? Would anybody like to come off mute and ask a question? I see Brian there. Do you want to take yourself off mute, Brian?
I think I am. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Yeah, it's funny. It's not a question. It's last week I had, last weekend, the rare kind of lifestyles of the rich and famous. I was in the Hamptons in New York, just through an invite, a good friend who married extremely well. But, you know, I was beautiful summer day hanging out with men, guys my age, late 50s, 60s, and in the history of humanity, there's probably been more, these guys are more successful than you can ever imagine. Hedge fund guys, and the just the level of just negativity, like just I had to walk away after about 20 minutes because like everything sucked, burn everything to the ground. It's all terrible. I used to be one of those guys. So, and your comments about gratitude and stuff, it was always overridden by, you got to stay hungry, yeah, last year was good, but next year is going to be worse and it's going to be tough. So, I live that life, not nearly to the degree that these guys do, but, yeah, I remember on driving back with my wife, I was just like, I never celebrated my wins. So it was irrelevant how well I quote unquote did, because I was always like, yeah, that was good, but I'm really concerned about next quarter. So just kind of stream of conscious comments about even at this 0.01001% of income, these guys are visibly miserable on a beautiful Saturday morning, just sad. So.
And do you think when they set out on their careers, Brian, that that's what they expected from life, that when they reached the top, they'd be miserable?
I know that when I went to Wall Street right after college, it was like, all right, I'm going to go in and I'm going to make a ton of money in 5 years and then I'm going to walk away. Well, you can't. It never happens. It's particularly if you want a beautiful home in the Hamptons with a trophy wife. But, I think they're all, I was thinking, you had this terrific and sad and life event. I think that's what it's going to take for these guys to be like, all right, enough. I don't care about, the exchange rate in Taiwan. It's like they either need to have a coronary or lose someone and say, I'm done. They were fascinated to talk to me for about 3 seconds that I actually retired and walked away because it's so gone from their mindset. But for a minute they were like, you what? So, that is like so beyond, because they wanted to go back to their desk and see what was,
It's my contention, Brian, that they don't have to walk away from that career. They can have the career, they can have the success, they can have the wealth that it brings, but they can also have the trophy wife and they can also have the happy family life. It's not an either or. By changing how they think about it, by developing an attitude of gratitude, they really can have it all. And I suppose you referred for how I made the transition from successful career-minded person to family man, and that it took a personal tragedy for that to happen. But that doesn't have to happen. You don't have to wait for the tragedy to happen. By changing your mindset, by changing how you think about things, you can have it all. You can have the wealth and you can have the nirvana that I talk about. So that's at the heart of who I am as a coach. That prosperity and the nirvana in one package. And I hope you're at least some of the way there, Brian.
I believe it. I do. I mean, these guys were hyper competitive and have been so for decades. So to break that chain, really, as you said, it involves a completely different, an evolution of the mindset where they're just focused on, the next trading day or the next deal. Not even like saying like, God, what a gorgeous summer day at the beach. It's like, so it's, because I was so immersed in that world where if I listened to your webinar when I was kind of in the fray, I would have been like, yeah, that's all cute, but I gotta, do this, completely disregarding why I'm in it. What was the long-term goal? Is family more important than that, than getting your name in lights for the 15 seconds at the, quarterly sales award. So, it's almost, you got to take a step back and figure out, why are you doing this?
And I'd say it's the rare individual, Brian, who actually does that, who actually takes a step back and realizes and understands why they're doing it. I've seen so many people where they just, that career goal becomes their life goal, and anybody who gets in their way on that path to career fulfillment is a victim. And that's certainly not how I wanted my career to be defined or my life to be defined. And I'm helping others who are questioning that too.
Can I just add something there? Sorry, I still can't get into my laptop, so I'm on my phone now. Um, so I find it really interesting what Brian was saying on the back of what you were sharing there, Will. I think, when you're in that mindset of it's the next big thing and you have to get it and you have to be better than everyone else and it's dog eat dog, like there's no psychological safety. So you don't really celebrate your wins because they're not real wins to you, I think. But what I think is really interesting is, Brian, after, as you said, like 3 seconds, you excused yourself because, those boundaries you have now and you're able to recognize, I suppose, these are not the people I want to be around. But I think when you're in that world, it's very hard to break out of that pattern. And that's why it sometimes takes, an event like to waken you up and realize this is me surviving. I'm not thriving. And on the outside, like, I suppose from afar, it looks like these guys have everything. They have the fancy house, the beautiful wives, fancy cars, massive salaries and what have you. But there's obviously I don't know, maybe an emptiness or something that's driving that. But I think, yeah, a lot of people don't take the time to sit down and reflect. And I think if you purposely look at gratitude, and Will, you're right, it goes back to mindset. I think you need to have that mindset to want to change, to want to enjoy the lovely Saturday morning at the beach, Brian. Or, I saw a thing the other day. It was actually like was a thing on Facebook, but it was about dandelions, and it was like the purpose of dandelions, and like some people see a weed and other people see a wish. So it's definitely about perspective, but it was about the versatility of the dandelion, when it shows up in different forms and it has different purposes, and like you can, there's health benefits and whatever, but it was really about what do you see when you look at this image. So if I am in that, I suppose, closed mindset where it's always about getting one up on my peer or doing better than the next guy, I'm not going to stop to smell the roses because I don't have time for that. And I think it's quite sad, really. But it is, I think, a sign of the times as well that people are now starting to move away from that and seek out coaches and stop and think there has to be more to life than this, because this
And
can't
I
be
think
all there
one
is.
of the most important tools for doing that is gratitude. It really is. I mean, by appreciating the good things, we begin to recognize them, and the means by which we achieve those good things change automatically once we recognize what they are.
Yeah, and I also think that your definition of good things or success changes by default. Once you start doing that, once you start keeping a gratitude journal or spending an hour on a Friday for reflection time to celebrate those successes, I think that kind of plants the seed, and then your definition of success is different and the goals that you're aiming for are different because you want different things.